Hi everyone, welcome to Generation Change and Inspiration podcast. My name is Bien. I'm a co-founder at Let's Reinvent. We aim to empower global citizens to succeed by promoting personal and professional development, cultural diversity, and inclusion.
Hi, my name is Claudie. I'm a co-founder at Let's Reinvent. In this podcast, we talk about books that inspire our generation and share valuable lessons which support our mission at Let's Reinvent. Let's go and jump right in.
Hi everyone. So for today's episode, we are going to discuss about the book Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office 101, which is written by Lois P Frankel. So Claudie, what do you think about the book? What is I would say, the summary after reading this very good book?
The book has an extensive amount of information. It's very detailed, and I was pleasantly surprised by the type of mistakes that we make. I believe it's not only women, but also men, and even things that I do. For example, the non-words when you speak. You know that you are making those mistakes, but it's very difficult to shake them off. So for me, it was really good to be reminded of them, and also to observe my own behavior after reading the book. I think in a way it's good also for growth, because you become aware of all the things that maybe someone sees in you but you don't necessarily do on yourself. So that was really good, and it's a great book to start with when you're on your path of growth, I believe. Yeah.
For me, I really loved how the author started, the book by saying that women, when they were younger, when they were girls, they were taught a certain way, like how to behave, how to talk, how to be very modest and polite, how to be, like the good girl. We always thought that we will be rewarded for being obedient, for being, a bit paranoid about our modesty. And so unconsciously, like it's true that we somewhat bring those, like culture, the inculcated, I would say, like learnings that we got when we were younger into our adulthood, and it's quite difficult to get away from it. It's like, for example, for me, like growing up in the Philippines, we need to learn how to cook, or I was in an almost exclusive school for girls. So, we were raised a certain way. We need to be prim and proper. We cannot just, get dirty or get very inventive like the boys. So it was really a constant battle as to how you should behave if you want to metaphorically conquer the world. And also, and the book was really good at highlighting the need to invest, women's time on learning, on building relationships, and getting mentorship and feedback. And also, highlighting the unconscious behaviors that that is within us, like even how we dress or how we talk. Like there's certain psychology behind it that needs to be recognized, and basically it's a call for action, that we need to make the conscious effort to change this unconscious behavior so that we could be more ready to take on the leadership roles, and to become, the role models basically for the younger women or young girls. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I guess next question really would be, what's your favorite? What's your highlight of the book?
Yeah, before I get to that, yeah, I just wanted to add that um, I like Lois's approach because from all the self-help books that I have read so far, she's really the first person mentioning women acting as girls,
Yeah.
and adopting and carrying our behavior as little girls into adulthood and not becoming aware of them and still carrying it on, and those behavior being the blockers of our own growth. So yeah, so that also it did catch my attention, and I think it's a good way to instigate change into women, yeah, to incite them to really look inside of them and yeah, try and make the connections. Yeah, am I maybe behaving this way because of what I have been taught as a little girl? Yeah, so and she's, for me, the first one in the books that I have read who has had this approach from the start. Um, my highlights. So the first one is something that I have personally put aside or ignored. It's about creating your own brand and marketing yourself better. So it has to do with how you present yourself, having, and she also mentions the importance of having an elevator pitch, for example.
Yeah.
So if someone asks you to present yourself, to introduce yourself, what would you say within 30 seconds or 60 seconds? How would you describe yourself so that people know who you are and know what you are capable of and learn about your skills and even be interested in your persona? That's very important to me, creating a brand, and I'm personally also working on it because through the book, thanks to the book, I also have realized that I have so much more work to do, in terms of my own personal brand. The second highlight for me is asking for feedback.
Yeah.
Asking for feedback, and even so, using that feedback in a productive way so that you can yourself become a mentor. So, and becoming a mentor yourself helps you as well, even be aware of your own development and what you need to do, how much more work you need to accomplish, to be able to get to the point where you want to be. So definitely asking for feedback and not taking feedback as something personal, so, or using it just to if you get, for example, negative feedback, not to necessarily be mad about it, but seeing it as a type of lesson, as something that you can learn from. So yeah, that was really good. And also the third one was staying in your safety or your comfort zone and waiting to be noticed. So that's something
It's really
that,
relevant.
exactly, so it's something that I have done myself in my previous jobs. I don't do it anymore, but I constantly remind myself, not to just sit around and wait for the world to just give me everything that I want. But also to just work towards those goals. And yeah, it's really refreshing and also rewarding when you have done something for yourself, when you have put yourself out there and yeah, you get something in return, or even not. Yeah, it's just about being comfortable with doing things that make you uncomfortable. Yeah, so it definitely empowers and yeah, also adds value to the way you see yourself, definitely. How about you? What highlights came out for you?
Well, I guess, well, first off, like I want to respond to, the highlights that you have shared with us. It's because I think the first one that you stated about, the importance of your brand, your personal brand, and how to market yourself, it's becoming more and more important because, like us girls, we've got like cute nicknames, right? It's given by our
Yeah.
parents or the elders, and we tend to keep it as we grow old. And so it kind of like sets the tone as to how the other people, especially the ones in power, will treat us. Like we do not sound very serious, and then if we introduce
Yeah.
ourselves, we kind of like have this mentality of like to be cute or to be soft and like silent is okay. Like
Absolutely.
there's that TED talk that I have watched like years ago about the art of being a leader by just saying your name right, like
Yes.
with confidence. For example, my
Yes.
name is Bianca. So instead of me saying like my name is Bianca, and then as a leader, you should be more firm. Like my name is Bianca,
Yeah.
with more authority. And so that's like the number one step on commanding authority and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think yeah, I really like like marketing yourself. It's because there's the subconscious behavior of us not treating it seriously. It's because we always have a brand. You cannot say that you have a brand, and especially on social media, right? Like it's becoming
Yeah.
more and more important. And if you find a new job, it's more or less your prospect employer will find you online and see what kind of behavior do you uphold yourself to. And so it's
Mm.
important to be more conscious about your personal brand and to always share the passion and a lot of positivity and a lot of results, rather than like a lot of negative, a lot of
Mm.
very like unacceptable, professionally unacceptable stuff. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
really agree that it's very important to be more mindful of how we market ourselves.
Yeah.
For me, well, I think I've got top three highlights. So the first one, from the second chapter, which is about how to play the game. I think the most notable, I would say, quotes or things that the author Lois said was to stop being naive. And if you're not playing the game, you cannot win.
Mm-hmm.
That's really,
Yeah.
really, something that resonated with me. It's because I was always against office politics. I really didn't like the bureaucracy, like the
Hierarchy and
hierarchy. Yeah, I really hated it. But it's just a slap to my face saying like, no, you really must consider that it's
yeah.
the reality of office, of workspace. And if you don't play it, like you end up losing. You just
Mm-hmm.
quit. And quitting is not like always bad or good, but I guess you can quit if you tried all your best but it's to no resort. But if you really want to make a change and make a significant impact, then you really have to play the game. And also, like briefly in that chapter too, she mentioned something about polling, or like the democratic voting. It's
Yeah.
used when you cannot make a decision independently. It's because we
Mm.
always have this like assumption that in order for us to be more accommodating, that it's a collective approach. Like you always need to solicit everyone's advice. But actually, that might be a symptom of your, like discomfort of making your decision as a leader independently. So yeah, there's like a certain balance that must be in place. Like it's great to actually solicit advice, but if you really don't need it, like you don't have to. It's not mandatory, right?
And
The
especially
second,
because people would actually see you as a weak leader, rather
exactly,
than take you
absolutely.
seriously.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And yeah, I guess, even in the, like the workplace, like if you always seek approval, it's like you seem to be, like always unsure of what you want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
The lack of confidence, it could look like it. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah. The second one, from the third chapter, how you act. I really liked her way of saying that we should invest in building relationships, and to find the environments that complements to our natural style. I guess, it makes sense. It's because if you are a certain type of person, let's say, for example, you're highly creative, right? And then you go into like a very rigid, very bureaucratic organization. I mean, you can probably work your way around, but at the end of the day, like you don't really expose like who you truly are, and yeah, it might make you feel unhappy or a bit, like disappointed at the end of the day. So it's best to try as much as possible to find the best environment for you to grow, and that complements your own personality. And also, she talked also about rehearsing how you communicate and don't be too apologetic, right?
That's such an important one. We actually had a discussion on that
I know.
a while ago. Yeah, so important. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she mentioned, actually, she reiterated many times on, like how we communicate, and in doing so we need to, let's say, record ourselves or talk to ourselves in the mirror, or listen to, the voicemail that we have created, so that we are more aware of how we sound, how we present ourselves, how we look. And yeah, and don't be too much, too apologetic. There's a lot of like LinkedIn posts these days talking about this specific point. Like we're always too apologetic. Like, for example, yeah, let's say you're late and you always say, sorry, I'm late. And then after that meeting, you still apologize for it. Like I did that in an interview. I mean, seriously. I was late. It's not my fault, but I was very apologetic for it. And then at the end of the meeting, of the interview, I still apologized for it. And then even though like I did a great job at that interview, the recruiter told me like, you were really great, but yeah, they did not appreciate that you were late. It's because I just kept on apologizing for it,
So
right?
you,
that was
and
the image.
that's what exactly, that you left with them basically. Oh no, that's a shame. I think it's go ahead.
No, I mean, I guess, it's good to recognize that we have points for improvement, but if it's unintentional, if we do not really hurt anyone or create a massive chaos, then we should be more constructive in thanking the other people for their patience, and try to be more constructive, and try not to apologize for something that is very minor, I would say, that doesn't really matter so much.
Absolutely, yeah. And I also think that it's good that Lois Frankel mentioned in the book that you don't have to be perfect at all those things, and you don't have to do everything perfectly either. It's just like a guide also to see where it is. And I do love the fact that at the beginning of the book she has a self-assessment,
Yes.
everyone can do. And depending on where they get the lowest points or the highest, these are the chapters that you would have to focus on. And so it helped me a lot. I did that as well. And for me, I've got the how you think,
Yeah.
and the chapter about creating your own brand. And I think it was chapter 8. I'm not sure anymore. And
yeah.
And I thought, oh wow, but that's amazing, because it helps me channel my energy onto a tiny little bit, rather than being everywhere at the same time and being overwhelmed. Ended up being overwhelmed because I have so many things to fix. So it really helps you work on the most pressing matters, and gradually work towards or improve your skills or your abilities in another department. So I really liked the approach, and it was right at the beginning of the book. And she even said, take the 2 chapters where you have the lowest point, start with them, and then move forward to the next one. And it was just really great, because you feel that, okay, this is what I have to do, and it's easier if you just start with tiny amount of things, and you move your way up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the misconception, right? Like sometimes we tend to bombard ourselves with like very big goals, when in fact, like what we really should do is try as much as possible to have that as a vision, but then we create the tiny little actions and steps on how we reach that point. And so it makes it more easier to digest and makes it more attainable, rather than overwhelming ourselves with like such a great extent and great complexity.
Exactly.
of a mission. I totally agree, and I loved it too. I think mine was more on how I think, and more how I play the game. It's because it's like something to do with my personal principles, but then I was just like being very idealistic and not really considering to what the reality is. And then I guess the last highlight that that I really like about the book is the chapter 4 about how we think, or how you think. It's about she mentioned something about don't reinventing the wheel because others have done it. I mean, how funny is that? I mean, I guess it's because our organization's name is Let's Reinvent, and then the author is saying that we shouldn't reinvent the wheel. But to me, it's true and false. True because on the Western context, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel, simply because there's more opportunities for women, I would say, or it's basically like the richness of the cultural like similarities. It's there. It's not really hard to break the cycle. Whereas for the people of underrepresented groups, or the ones who has a different background to the Western society, tends to find it so difficult to crack the code to actually thrive in the Western standards. And that's where we come from. That's our perspective, right? It's like bridging the gap and helping those people who were not exposed to the leading ideologies that we have today, and try as much as possible to reinvent how they think. It's, for example, like in the Philippines, there's no such thing really as insurance, or like financial stability. It's all about like if God like if God
will
wills,
provide.
God will provide. But it's actually quite wrong. Like, we have to reinvent our beliefs, and we have to be more, prepared and more strategic as to how do we make the steps so that we can be more, stable and more secure for the future. And that's why, for some reason, it's true that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but in other, cases or categories, like, we need to reinvent the wheel. Most especially, like, how many people think. Let's say, for example, have nothing against the Islamic world, but the particular thing that I do not like about the society is how they treat the women, right? Like, they don't have the equal rights as men. And some would say, it should be the right way of life, but I disagree. I think that there must be, a way to reinvent like the social
I mean, it's not
fabric.
even limited, it's not restricted even to the Muslim world, because I see it even here, right? So, and I've experienced it on my own person, I've experienced it in my family as well. I think it's a global issue, the way women are treated. And also what I saw in the book was that Lois she seems to be directed, on the, or focused on the corporate world, because, for example, she said that she doesn't, in my words, she doesn't tolerate people having tattoos that are visible, for example, in the office. But I think in a creative environment, that's also what she implies, that in creative environments, other environments, it is more tolerated and accepted. Well, in my opinion, I think that we are becoming more and more open when it comes to that. I mean, maybe not if you're working in, for one of the biggest banks in the US. I think maybe things would look different, but yeah. So I think that things are opening up a bit, and I hope they are as well, because having a tattoo, in my opinion, is not really the end of the world, and being able to see
absolutely
it is,
in the Philippines, where I studied for university, like, these are proper adults. We get warnings, we get we get reprimanded for having like other color of hair, rather, apart from what we have naturally. It's like, how how on earth can your hair color affect the way you study, or the way you become employable? Like, it's some absurd rules that we make up to assert like authority among people.
Speaking of rules, in the book it says you should also be aware of the unspoken rules, at the office. So and to actually make a list of how you should behave, and who you could talk to, and what you could say or not. So and I was, that actually made me think. I never really thought of making a list of these unspoken rules. I was aware of these unspoken rules, and even rules that I thought were completely absurd. For example, you should be treating with this client, better than the others, because they are, I don't know what. And I just think, I prefer giving each client the same amount of respect, regardless. But so there are these so-called unspoken rules that are also very, very interesting to observe, and I think it's definitely worth knowing them to better play the game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's so true. And I don't know, like even for women that has the skills and that has the years of experience, like
Yeah.
sometimes it's just really tough to um like be yourself. I mean, like some women, even let's say Margaret Thatcher, she would say like you you don't really have to be yourself, like just follow how men does it, and
Exactly.
you don't
Yeah.
have to lift others up, lift other women up.
Exactly.
it's
Mm.
it's just a bit wrong. And yeah, I guess for me it's all about finding the opportunities to let's say to adapt to the system. Like yeah, like we have to recognize that many of the fields in the professional world are dominated by men, so we need to like learn the ins and outs of it. But it's not
Yeah.
the end of it. Like we need to find the ways to to make the change and
Yeah.
to stop the like the wrong cultures that are
Mm.
prevalent across these sectors.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
And
mean, yeah.
and we do know that these rules, the way we live, is detrimental to so many people, to so many women and underrepresented groups. And I think it's, we really need to break the chains and definitely reinvent the way we think and live as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess and also it's not just for women as well. So, for
Mm.
example, one concrete thing about us, like Filipinos, like um, we always address anyone who's older to us as sir or ma'am. So imagine,
Yeah.
like I don't know you, and then we have this call, and then I'll just call you Ma'am Claudia. I'm sure that it's not just exclusively to Filipino culture, it's, everywhere. But the
Mm.
fact that you call someone like sir or ma'am makes it already unequal. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the power, the balance of power is not equal, and therefore it's hard to assert, like your proposals, your requests, because there's already an inherent belief that
Mm.
like whatever you say would not be as impactful as the one that you're speaking with.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I really struggle, with that concept of like calling people with their first name.
Mm.
Like calling it the CEO by the first name, like it's a no-no in the Philippines. But yeah, but I learned my way. But
Yeah.
now that I have, like immersed in the equality, the culture of equality, now it's a bit tough for me to bring that to the Philippines. Like
Mm.
I don't know, like for example, let's say the mayor, like I wouldn't
Mm.
just, well, not the mayor, but some random CEO of a big company. Like it's a bit tough to just call the person by the first name and nothing like very special to address the status of the
Yeah.
person. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's really embedded in the culture as well. And yeah, and I think it's one of the reasons as to why many people like find it really tough to assert leadership or to demand more
Mm.
authority.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. It's very tricky, and I hope at some point we'll be able to also, make improvements in that sense, because it doesn't benefit all of us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
I mean,
some of them, but
I
yeah.
hope I really hope that like this cultural nuances can be embedded in the curriculum of the
Mm.
students. It's because that's how we can create a systemic change, really.
Mm.
Because the curriculum, even in the Philippines, like the curriculum is like from 50, 30, or 20 years, like it's super outdated.
Mm. Yeah, that's how it is in Cameroon as well. I do not think, well, I haven't examined the educational system in the past few years, but when I was in school there, it was just old stuff all the time, repeated over and over again. And when I moved to Germany, so I realized how engaged the students were as well. So they were even allowed to disagree with the teachers, and that's something unheard of, from someone who comes from Cameroon, because there is also this culture of hierarchy, right? So the teacher is your God when you're in school. So you cannot, even if you have another opinion, just keep it to yourself and just write things down and just don't say anything. And having studied here or in Germany and Spain and France as well, has mostly Spain and Germany, excuse me, has allowed me to think for myself, be very proactive in the way I saw the things and make my own opinions, do my own research, and speak up when I just felt that, oh no, there are some discrepancies, in this information that I saw or that the teachers have forwarded to us. So I do wish that all of us get the opportunity to be like that, rather than just following one person without even double checking or questioning whether it is true or false what they say.
Do you have other personal experiences that closely resonated with the other content of the book?
Yes, it's more about acting or being seen as a little girl, because some years ago, even if I already had a certain position in the company, the way I acted didn't make me look as confident as I expected people to see me. And so I think that some years ago, people still saw me as a little girl. So, and then they thought that they couldn't trust me with certain tasks, or they couldn't promote me to a better position. And I did suffer from that, because I was 100% sure that I was up to the task. But because of how I acted, it was very difficult for my superiors to see me as they wanted to see me, as I should have looked. So I think that's something that is very clear to me in the book, and that I know I need to keep in the back of my mind.
I guess the book is really a good reflection of the society, right? Like being perceived as a leader, you must really have a certain quality characteristics, like the projection of your voice, even your the hair, how your hair looks. It's like on the chapter 7, Lois said that the senior you become in the company, the shorter your
hair should be.
It's an eye-opening.
And it's funny because a part of me wishes that it wasn't the case, that your appearance wasn't that crucial, to your own growth and to how people perceived you. But that's how it is, right? And and even if I think, oh no, I just want to be able to wear the clothes that I want. I feel that no, I need to play the game as,
That's
you know,
true. Yeah.
yeah, as good as I can. Yeah, otherwise I won't get what I want.
That's true.
So
I
yeah.
shared, like similar stories. I mean, I guess for me, like I'm a keen advocate of, like embracing who you are and
Yes.
experimenting and
Mm.
improving gradually. But
Mm.
then during those times, like I had an interview with the UK government for a senior role.
Mm.
And I know that, I'm super qualified for it. I know that I can get the job. I'm
Yes.
really confident. But then my mistake was that it was the pandemic, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was in the middle of my hair experimentation stage. So at
Yeah.
one point I dyed my hair pink, and
Oh, I did see that. I remember.
and then I had the interview
Oh,
with a panel of like very senior
yes.
people in the government. So they're the head of like program delivery. I won't mention more
Oh, wow.
details, but the funniest thing is that when they first saw me, the first question that I received was, "Are you sure you're in the right like meeting room?" And I was like, "What?" Like,
Really?
I'm pretty sure that
Oh,
I'm the only one who has access to my email address and the Zoom
yeah.
link.
Mm.
And yeah, and B, it's like, what kind of question is that?
Yeah,
I mean,
to be
yeah,
honest, I would have found you totally interesting. I would have gone totally for the person who, breaks those rules and just appears, like you did. On well, it's my personal opinion, but yeah, I would have felt more, yeah, intrigued, and I would have wanted,
yeah, but
yeah,
it's
I would
not
have
the
been
case. Yeah,
positively surprised. Yeah, yeah, pleasantly
yeah.
surprised.
I would have appreciated maybe if they asked
Yeah.
me, can you confirm your name or can you confirm your ID? But no, it's like, it's because I really
Wow.
look like a teenager. I mean, it's the curse of having the East
Mm,
Asian face. Like this is our
mm.
face, like, until we age 80, and then by that time, like we,
Mm.
like become a different person.
Oh,
Um,
you should have seen me 2 years ago. Remember when we were working at the collective, how I always had, or most of the time, I had these two Minnie Mouse balls on my
yeah,
head,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and I think people just didn't take me seriously because I
Mm,
look like that, right? And yeah, so now I can't. I even at home, I don't have that hairstyle anymore
yeah.
because I just think, no, you just look like a little girl. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's good that, the author Lois Frankel mentioned that you
Mm.
can really be who you are, but it really depends on the environment that suits your personality and your
Yeah,
interests best.
definitely.
But the
Mm.
harsh reality of, like the corporate ladder, the entrepreneurship, the rat
Yeah.
race, like it really calls for a strict, demands on like the stereotypical leader of like
Mm.
being formal, being assured, like there's no mistakes. uh yeah.
Yes,
And yeah,
absolutely.
it's really rigid, I would say. And yeah, I
Mm.
mean, we can always find the balance, and we can always gradually change the image, but
Definitely.
but it would really, you know require more efforts from
Mm.
the top to bottom on on affecting this change.
Mm. Yeah. What are your key takeaways from the book?
um there were I think on the fourth chapter, it's
Mm.
about how you think. There's this one like line that stuck with me. She said, like, what do you want to be written on your tombstone? Then do it,
Oh, yes.
right?
That one. It's a
So
hard one to think. I read that and I was a bit intimidated. Yeah, but it's a
yeah,
really good. practice.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
basically, I had a talk the other week, and basically my key takeaway was something similar. I asked the audience, like, how do you want to be remembered?
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Because yeah, it's because like for us, for women, for those who wants to be the change, it's not enough to be comfortable, about who you are, but rather how you become an inspiration and a role model to other
Yeah.
people.
Mm.
How do you envision to change the image of leadership, of being the CEO?
Yeah.
And so we really need to kind of have this very solid vision, right, of what we want to create,
Mm-hmm.
or what difference do we want to make, and then trace our steps back so we know where to begin and how can we climb and reach that certain milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I guess like no matter how much idealism and positivity we want to instill in our lives, but we cannot ignore the reality of
Mm.
like the perception of the society, of the people, the reality of the
Exactly.
office politics, the
Mm.
inequality, and gender differences.
Mm.
So I guess
Yeah.
the key takeaways, we really need to be in the game, to play the
Mm.
game, and
Mm.
to change the game.
Exactly. It's the same. So for me, also, yeah, my key takeaway was the first one was business is a game, and you need to understand the roles and play it. Otherwise, you've already lost. And also um, just to step away from this idea of from what you've known when you were a little girl, because there was one thing that she said, yeah, women should act like women, and because people, they don't really um, they prefer, or at least she was explaining the idea of men um, preferring little girls because they can protect them, because they're sweet and they do what they're told. But yeah, when you step away from that, then you are treated completely differently, and all of a sudden people stop messing with you, and you don't feel frustrated anymore because you ask for what you want, rather than waiting for it to be given to you, or rather than just staying in the corner, not doing anything. But you move away from what you know and what you've been told how to behave, and then you go get what it is that you want. So yeah, for me, definitely understand that business is a game and play that game well, know the
Yeah.
rules. Yeah. And also yeah, step away from the little girl that you used to be. Yeah. Yeah. So all in all, a very informative and useful
Oh
book.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I've
I felt it too.
yeah, I've read it in 3 days. I was just, yeah, I was hooked, and I just thought, wow, okay, this one I'm gonna keep it close to me. Usually, I'm very picky when it comes to books. I like to read all sorts of books, but yeah, so I did like the fact that there were so many details and tiny things, that you normally don't think of, and she would just serve them to you on the plate, and you would feel kind of guilty of making those mistakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you keep reading, you also do find comfort in it, because even without treating you like a little girl, she encourages you to make those changes. And when I finished the book, I was just thinking, okay, I get it. I'm gonna go back to playing chess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she said something about joining Toastmasters or
Yes.
like the public. Yeah, I've joined a
Awesome.
Toastmaster club too.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
me too.
It's really good, and I do recommend doing the self-assessment, people. Even if you don't manage to read all the book, you can do the self-assessment and pick the 2 chapters that you struggle with the most, and yeah, work on your little flaws. But yeah, do not forget to, how would I put it? Not to try to be perfect. So, and she already says this beautifully in the book. Do not aim for perfection. Yeah, because in the end, you might just miss opportunities of being more authentic, and yeah, being seen as the person that you really are. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I did
beautiful.
enjoy it. Yeah.
And then maybe one last thing. If you're going to rate the book, from 1 to 10, like 1 the lowest, 10 is the highest, how would you rate it?
10 is the highest.
Yeah.
I'll give it an 8.5. Yeah,
That's really good.
8.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think I would give it a 9. I love,
Yeah.
like very straightforward, like this is what you should do. I
Yeah.
love it. I love this style. Yeah. I'll give it a
No, it's really
9.
good. It's really good, and I do, and I don't know which version you have. It says, "Nice girl still don't get the corner office." So she actually had to do a second version of the book. I don't know how many versions she has, but I assume it's the second one. And I apologize in advance if I made a mistake with that information. But yeah, so it seems to be so important. And she explains in the book that she has spoken to so many women, and so many of them make those mistakes, unconsciously, and they don't even realize that it's also due to the lack of confidence, for example, or how their father treated them as little girls.
Yeah.
And it's really important to read this book if you want to, just get a different approach to self-help and understanding your own behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much respect. Like, it's her entire career as a coach or as a psychologist, like talking to hundreds of women who's actually have, like trying to reach the top, trying to get the corner office.
Exactly. And especially the thing is, she even worked with successful women, and even the successful women made those mistakes that she listed, and she gave examples with names, with job titles, and all. And seeing that makes you realize, oh wow, even if you're at the top of your game, you can still make mistakes that just kill your whole projects, and so, and she really helps, getting to push back and standing up for yourself. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have any feedback or just want to say hi, drop us a message on social media via @Let'sReinventNow or email us at hello@letsreinvent.org.
And for more information about events and other activities at Let's Reinvent, visit letsreinvent.org. Thank you for listening, and see you on the next episode.